So friends, two Trumps are still set to testify in the New York fraud trial. And whereas Donald Trump's testimony will be a bunch of bombastic bull, Ivanka's testimony could be really perilous to her brothers and to Daddy himself. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. Well friends, happy Donald Trump Testimony Eve. Okay, I don't know if happy is the right word, but Donald Trump is about to hit the stand in his New York fraud trial. Now that's the trial in which Judge Arthur Engoron has already found that Trump and his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, both of whom are being tried as adults, the judge has already found that they are liable. They lost. They engaged in massive, systemic, years-long business fraud. And all that remains to be decided by Judge Engoron in this trial is how much will they have to, quote, disgorge, the technical term for how much money will they have to pay back? How much will they be fined? How much of their ill-gotten gains that they got as a result of their business fraud will they have to return? And the second issue still to be decided is, should they be barred from doing business in New York? Now, Donald Trump's testimony is just going to be a lot of nonsense, right? All bluff and bluster, bombast, straight up BS. And if he's not careful, he may walk himself right into a criminal perjury charge, because if you lie under oath in a criminal trial, you can be charged with perjury. But if you lie under oath in a civil trial, which Donald Trump's New York fraud trial is, you can still be charged criminally with perjury. So we'll keep an eye out for that. But I think the far more interesting and far more consequential in many ways testimony will come from Ivanka Trump. And I think it's potentially really perilous for her brothers and for her father. And we'll talk about why that is in a minute. But let's start with some of the new reporting. This from U.S. News and World Report. Headline, Trump testifying is a test all its own. And that article begins, Donald Trump is set to testify in a Manhattan courtroom on Monday in the $250 million civil fraud case that threatens to unravel the sweeping real estate empire and business bona fides the former president relied upon in his unlikely ascent to the White House. Perhaps more to the point, the case threatens to expose the leading Republican presidential nominee and provide a record-setting course correct, likely an embarrassing one, to the image and identity he cultivated for himself over several decades. The judge in the case has already found Trump and his adult sons liable of fraud and canceled the Trump Organization's business certificates, siding with New York Attorney General Letitia James, who accused the former president and his business associates of inflating the value of his net worth and properties on financial statements used to secure loans. James is seeking $250 million. That would be $250 million for those of you scoring at home. James is seeking $250 million in compensatory damages, along with a ban on the Trumps serving as officers of a business in New York and on the company from engaging in business transactions for 5 years. While Trump faces 91 criminal charges stemming from 4 separate indictments, 2 of which charge him with undermining democracy by attempting to overturn his 2020 presidential election loss, it's the civil lawsuit from James that seems to have unnerved Trump the most. You know, friends, don't you just love that it is the business fraud trial that has, quote, unnerved Donald Trump the most? He's more concerned with his image as a businessman than with his legacy as a treasonous president who tried to end American democracy. Glad he's got his priorities straight. But friends, let's turn to the upcoming testimony of Ivanka Trump. You know, there are at least 3 data points that, when taken together, lead to the reasonable inference, as we say in court, that Ivanka's testimony is very likely to be the most perilous testimony for her brothers and for her father. Data point number 1. Ever since Donald Trump left the presidency, Ivanka Trump has been darn near radio silent. She hasn't given interviews. She certainly doesn't post unhinged rants and videos like her brothers, Don Jr. and Eric. She has distanced herself from her father, from his presidency, and from all the nonsense that her brothers continue to spew into the public square. Data point number 1. Data point number 2, Ivanka has moved heaven and earth to not have to testify. She has filed challenges to the subpoena. She has appealed the decision that the subpoena was valid and she must testify. She then said she had to delay her testimony because it's such a hardship for her to find child care for one day to come to court. Data point number 2, she has pulled out all the stops trying to avoid testifying, but she lost and she will testify. And data point number 3, and I think this is the most important, think back to the January 6th House Select Committee hearings when she testified. She complied with a congressional subpoena. She testified behind closed doors, but her videotaped testimony was then played during the J6 public hearings, and we saw some of what she said. And one thing in particular was devastating to her father. She said, I credited Bill Barr when he said he concluded the evidence showed that there was no widespread fraud undermining the election's results. In other words, what did she say? Even if not expressly, she said it inferentially. I discredited my father. I disbelieved him when he claimed there was widespread fraud undermining the election's results, and he, not Joe Biden, was the true winner. Her daughter, loud and clear in substance, conveyed to everybody in her testimony that my father is full of nonsense. Why is that such an important data point? It seems when push comes to shove and she complies with a subpoena and she's placed under oath and testifies subject to the penalties of perjury, it seems like she's going to tell the truth even if it is deeply damaging to her own father. And she was privy to a whole bunch of business fraud going on at the Trump organization. She was aware of it, right? She has firsthand information, I strongly suspect, that could implicate, maybe even incriminate her brothers and her father. And she will be placed under oath in that New York courtroom, and she will be testifying subject to the penalties of perjury, criminal perjury. And I have a feeling if they ask the right questions, and I suspect Attorney General Letitia James' team will ask the right questions, Ivanka's testimony could be really damaging to her brothers and her father. But we'll know soon enough. In a couple of days now, Ivanka will hit the stand, and unfortunately there are no cameras in the courtroom, so we won't see it for ourselves, but there are plenty of reporters in there who will step out to the hallway and report accurately what's going on, as opposed to, you see Donald Trump step into the hallway after every court session in his fraud trial, and he spews what I call his hallway lies. one of my favorite lies that he was caught in didn't even have to do with the substance of the testimony, but rather he said, I have to be here. I have to be in that courtroom every day. I'm required to be here, so I can't even be out on the campaign trail. And then not a minute later, a reporter asked him, will you be here tomorrow? He said, oh no, there's a golf tournament that I'm going to attend. It's going to be a great golf tournament at one of my properties. You know, he can't even keep his own lies straight minute to minute. And friends, I'm sure we'll circle back in the coming days and talk about how absurd, nonsensical, bombastic Donald Trump's testimony was. And we'll also take on the substance of Ivanka Trump's testimony once it's complete. Hopefully, Ivanka will tell the truth after being placed under oath. She's done it before to the detriment of her father. And, you know, telling the truth after you've been placed under oath in a court of law, like justice, matters. Friends, as always, please stay safe, please stay tuned, and I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.